I think writing my middle name was like a stress reaction or something. So I was borrowing my girlfriend's car, and it was a stick shift. And I got out, and the car proceeded on its way down the hill that I was parked on. And when you're a human being trying to stop a moving car, there's just a point where you have to say goodbye. And it's carrying on its way. This is one of the most terrifying moments of my life. And after quite a distance, it hit a fire hydrant and then a telephone pole, bucked up and settled, and then this huge water spout started flooding the street. It was so far away that there were many people on the scene trying to rescue the people in the car by the time I got there. And I just pretended to be trying to help. And so when the police came and I had to be like, yeah, that's my car, it was pretty embarrassing. And that's pretty much my life as a series of these funny anecdotes about doing incredibly absent-minded things. Like recently when I put on 2 belts and didn't realize until I went to the bathroom. But I want to tell the story a little bit about the darker side of this characteristic, like what it's cost me in my life, and not do the funny anecdote thing. You know, like there was a time when I was a senior in college and I was working at the Jefferson Memorial. I went to Georgetown and John Lewis was on a jog. And I just took a risk and struck up a conversation with him and talked about slavery and Jefferson, and he gave me his card and he said, call me. And I left my wallet on top of a laundromat and never got to do that. And then there's relationships. Good at first, get serious, living with a hurricane of disaster, they don't like it. They end suddenly. And what's really dark about this is the association with ADHD and trauma. Definitely true for me. And it makes sense because ADHD is not really about a lack of focus, it's about hyper-focusing on things to the detriment of others. And when you're going through trauma, when I was 7, that's how I got through it. And so there's this dark side to it. And then I met this woman that was like the one, right? And she asked me to move in with her. And I just felt this sense of dread. Because she also had like scaly hands from overwashing and all these qualities that were just totally incompatible with being in a relationship with me. But I didn't have the integrity to say, you know, we're doomed. So I moved in and I just gave it my all. I remember this time I made her breakfast and I was like, I've made this incredible breakfast, come to the kitchen, and I had made coffee without putting the pot underneath the coffee. And so there was coffee everywhere. And when it comes to cleaning, like she has to be the one that does it. So, and then the breakfast was cold and she was upset. And then COVID happened. And it was just a disaster, and things weren't going very well. And then she was going to go on a hiking trip with her friends, not me. And like, if it's a friend who's like going through divorce or her husband is cheating on her, like, okay, that's fine. But when it's a friend like this was in a really good relationship, like that doesn't bode well for me because I don't compare well. And things weren't going well. And she comes, and it's hard when things aren't resolved and someone goes away. That's hard. She comes back and she's like, I want to talk to you. And she said, I read this book while I was on this hiking trip. I want to read you a passage from it. It's called Being in a Relationship with Someone with ADHD. She's like, I'd really like to work on this together. I'd really like to read this together. And it's just the greatest thing anyone's ever done for me. And then we got married. And then she told me that she wanted me to be the father of her child, which is like, you got to be pretty responsible to father a child, right? Like, come a long way. And then she had the child, and he's healthy. And, you know, when I'm holding him, and I'm, like, hyper-fixating to the detriment of all else, it feels like, hey, this is what I was meant to be. You know, like, this is why I'm this way. So that in this moment with my son, it's just me and him. And I know that he feels it, too. And what I don't notice is that for 3 minutes, my wife has been filming us. And I look at her and I can tell that she thinks so too. Thank you.